In the dim candlelight of the Vatican's archive chamber, I, Father Bartolomeo Celli, open the worn leather folio-marked cases Giordano Bruno with trembling fingers. The papal seal, now broken, has protected these documents for 7 years. Cardinal Bellarmine himself has entrusted me with this most delicate assignment, to hear the final confession of the notorious heretic before the flames claim him tomorrow. The pages within speak of abominations, infinite worlds beyond our own, denial of Christ's divinity, secret correspondences with Arabic mathematicians, and worst of all, a cosmology that removes Earth from God's special care. The marginalia, scribbled by various inquisitors, note Bruno's stubborn refusal to recant despite 7 years of imprisonment. He must be broken before he burns, Bellarmine told me this morning, for the good of his eternal soul and for the Church's triumph over heresy. I close the dossier and make the sign of the cross. Night has fallen over Rome, and with it comes my duty to descend into the dungeons of Castel Sant'Angelo, where darkness of another kind awaits. Day 1. The cell door creaks open, revealing a figure hunched against the far wall. Giordano Bruno is smaller than I expected, emaciated from his years of confinement, his Dominican robes hanging loose upon his frame. Yet his eyes burn with an unsettling intensity as they meet mine. Another confessor? His voice emerges hoarse but steady. The Holy Office grows impatient. I approach slowly, placing my lantern on the small wooden table between us. I am Father Bartolomeo. I've been sent to prepare your soul for what comes. My soul requires no preparation, Father. Bruno's lips curl into what might be a smile. It has journeyed far beyond these walls already. I produce an olive wood crucifix for my robes. Speak truly of your transgressions. Renounce your heresies, and mercy may yet be possible. Bruno regards the crucifix with detached curiosity. Tell me, Father, have you ever considered that the universe might be far larger than our scriptures suggest? That our sun might be but one of countless others, each nurturing worlds of their own? These are the very heresies that condemned you, I remind him. No, Father. What condemned me was not heresy, but fear. Fear of a cosmos too vast for comfortable theology. I watch him carefully. The inquisitors say you learn forbidden knowledge. Knowledge is never forbidden to those who truly seek God, Bruno replies. In Naples, I found ancient texts that revealed geometries beyond Euclid. In Paris, I studied the Arabic mathematicians who understood the power of zero al-sifr, the void from which all numbers emerge. Do you know what happens, Father, when you divide any number by 0? I shake my head, unsettled. Infinity, Bruno whispers. And infinity is not heresy. It is God's first language. Day 3. I return to find Bruno sketching complex diagrams in the dust of his cell floor with a small piece of charcoal. What are these symbols? I ask, kneeling beside him. Memory wheels, he answers without looking up. The art of remembering is also the art of creation. The Egyptians knew this. So did Solomon. The Church says your memory systems are demonic. Bruno laughs, a sound like dry leaves rustling. The Church fears what it cannot control. These are patterns of thought, Father, maps of the divine mind. He explains his cosmology with fervent precision. An infinite universe populated with countless worlds, all interconnected by invisible forces. All manifestations of a divine presence that permeates matter itself. His words flow with hypnotic certainty as he speaks of Nicholas of Cusa, Copernicus, and ancient manuscripts describing celestial mechanics unknown to Aristotle. The stars are suns, Father, each possibly surrounded by planets like our own. The universe has no center and no boundary. And God, I ask, where does he reside in this boundless creation of yours? Everywhere, Bruno replies. And in everything, not beyond nature, but within it. The universe itself is the living body of God. I make the sign of the cross reflexively. This is pantheism. Heresy. Truth cannot be heresy, he says simply. Day 5. I have begun to dream of infinite spaces, of worlds without end, of stars beyond counting. Bruno notices my distraction. You are troubled, Father. Your ideas? I begin, then stop. The cardinal told me you were a master of manipulation. A shadow crosses Bruno's face. Is it manipulation to share what I have learned? To speak what I have seen? Anger rises in me unexpectedly. You speak of what you've seen? You locked in this cell for 7 years? What cosmos have you witnessed from here? I gesture at the damp walls contemptuously. Bruno rises slowly, chains rattling at his ankles. He places a palm flat against the rough stone wall. These walls, he murmurs, are merely arrangements of particles in space, patterns of matter that appear solid only to our limited senses. The stone beneath his hand seems to shimmer, as though suddenly liquid. A low vibration fills the cell, setting my teeth on edge. The lantern flame dances wildly, casting grotesque shadows. Stop this, I command, clutching my crucifix. As suddenly as it began, the vibration ceases. Bruno returns to his bench, watching me with those unsettling eyes. How did you? My voice fails me. The same mathematics that describe the heavens also govern the smallest particles of matter, he says quietly. Master one, and you begin to understand the other. I flee the cell that night, my certainties crumbling like sand. Day 6. Cardinal Bellarmine summons me to his chambers. What progress with the heretic? Remain steadfast in his beliefs, I stammer. You mean he remains obstinate in his blasphemy? Bellarmine corrects sharply. Father Bartolomeo, do you understand your task? We need his recantation before tomorrow's execution. The people must see the church triumphant over error. Perhaps if he were offered genuine clemency. Clemency. Bellarmine's voice rises. For man who denies the Trinity, who claims the universe infinite, removing mankind from God's special care. The sentence is final. Your task is to save his soul before the flames claim his body. I bow my head in submission, but something shifts within me. A strange yearning to understand more of Bruno's cosmos before it is extinguished forever. Day 7. I return to Bruno's cell with new purpose. Show me, I demand without preamble. Show me your universe. Bruno studies me cautiously. Why this sudden interest, Father? Tomorrow you burn. Whatever knowledge dies, with you will be lost forever. A slow smile spreads across his gaunt face. So you wish to preserve my heresy? I wish to understand what drives a man to choose flames over recantation. Bruno gestures for me to sit. What I have discovered cannot be broken by fire. Father, truth is adamant. He begins to speak of the void of Arabic numerals, of how zero changed everything in mathematics. He draws complex figures in the dust, interlocking circles, polygons nested within polygons, spirals that seem to move even as they remain static. The cosmos is mathematical at its foundation, he explains, not merely in position and movement, but in essence. Numbers are not merely tools for counting. They are the vocabulary of creation itself. As he speaks, I feel my mind expanding, stretching beyond familiar boundaries. The cell seems to grow transparent around us, revealing glimpses of star-strewn darkness. I could show you more, Bruno says softly. Secrets I learned from manuscripts in Constantinople. Formulas that unlock the architecture of reality itself. The temptation is overwhelming. Yes, I whisper. Then you must help me reach the Pope, Bruno says. I need only to demonstrate these principles once to His Holiness, to show him that my cosmology glorifies God rather than diminishes Him. The execution is ordered for tomorrow, I remind him. Then tonight, you must help me leave the cell, Bruno insists. All I ask is a chance to prove my discoveries. I hesitate, torn between duty and curiosity. I will speak to Cardinal Bellarmine again, I promise, already knowing it will be futile. Bruno's eyes narrow. You lie, Father Bartolomeo. I see it in your face. You have no intention of helping me. The air in the cell grows suddenly cold. The chains at Bruno's wrists vibrate with barely contained energy. For one terrifying moment, I believe he might break free through sheer force of will. I have shown you courtesy, Bruno says, his voice hardening. I have shared knowledge few mortals possess. And now you would walk away, leaving me to burn while you contemplate my cosmos in safety. No, I protest weakly. I merely... Go, Bruno interrupts. But remember what you have glimpsed here. It will haunt you long after my ashes have cooled. That night, sleep eludes me. Bruno's diagrams dance behind my closed eyelids. His words echo in my thoughts. The universe itself is the living body of God. Shortly before midnight, a messenger arrives at my chamber. Cardinal Bellarmine requests my presence urgently. I follow the messenger through torchlit corridors to a chamber I have never entered before, deep beneath the Vatican. Inside, I find Bellarmine with 3 Dominican inquisitors and the captain of the Swiss Guard. Their faces are grim. Father Bartolomeo. Bellarmine addresses me without warmth. The prisoner has been chanting continuously since your departure. Strange formulas, incantations in languages unknown to us. He often speaks of mathematics, I offer. This is more than mathematics. An inquisitor interjects. The guards report unusual phenomena. Lights appearing within his cell. Objects moving without being touched. We fear he may attempt some final sorcery before tomorrow's execution, Bellarmine explains. We cannot risk him speaking at the stake. The public must witness his death, but they cannot hear his final words. I understand immediately. You want me to administer last rites. Yes, Bellarmine nods. And while you pray with him, others will ensure he cannot speak tomorrow. Horror washes through me. You mean to cut out his tongue? The cardinal confirms dispassionately. It is not uncommon for those condemned for sorcery. I cannot be part of this. I protest. Bellarmine regards me coldly. You already are, Father Bartolomeo. You have been seen frequent his cell. You have engaged with his heresies, perhaps too deeply. The threat is unmistakable. I bow my head in submission. An hour later, I enter Bruno's cell with the others. He is indeed chanting, rhythmic syllables that seem to make the very air vibrate with potential. When he sees us, he falls silent, his gaze moving from face to face before settling on mine. I see, he says simply. So it has come to this. I step forward with my prayer book. I've come to offer last rites, Giordano. And they, Bruno nods toward the guards and the surgeon who accompanies them, have come for my voice. It would be easier if you didn't resist, I whisper. Bruno smiles thinly. Nothing worthwhile is easy, Father. When they move to restrain him, he does not fight. The surgeon works quickly with his instruments. I look away, but cannot block out the muffled sounds of the procedure. When it is done, Bruno sits silent, blood streaming down his chin and neck, his eyes never leaving mine. Before we depart, he scratches something in the dust with a bloodied finger. A perfect circle with intersecting lines forming a complex geometry I cannot comprehend. Below it, a single word, witness, the execution. Morning breaks clear and cold over Rome. The Campo de' Fiori fills with spectators eager to see the notorious heretic meet his end. Vendors sell roasted chestnuts and spiced wine as though at a festival. I stand near the stake, My role to offer final absolution should Bruno indicate repentance even now. They bring him from the prison in an open cart, his face ashen but composed. Without his tongue, he cannot respond to the charges read aloud by the official of the Holy Office, a litany of heresies and blasphemies. The crowd jostles and jeers, hungry for spectacle. Bruno is bound to the stake with iron chains, his hands tied. Kindling is piled around his feet. When offered the crucifix one final time, he turns his face away. The official gives the signal, and torches are applied to the wood. Smoke rises, then flames. Bruno's eyes remain open, fixed on some point above the crowd. As the fire grows, consuming his robes, something strange occurs. The rope binding his hands chars through, freeing them momentarily before the flames can reach his flesh. In that brief window, Bruno raises his right hand and begins to trace shapes in the air, precise, deliberate gestures forming invisible geometries. The smoke from the pyre seems to follow his fingertips, solidifying into lines and curves that hang suspended above the crowd. A perfect circle appears first, then a triangle within it. A spiral unfurls from its center, expanding outward. More shapes materialize, polyhedra, golden ratios, fractals of increasing complexity. The crowd falls silent, transfixed by the impossible spectacle. The geometries multiply, intersect, transform. Some observers cry out in terror, falling to their knees. Others stand paralyzed. From my position near the stake, I watch in horrified fascination as Bruno's final theorem unfolds in fire and air, a visual representation of his infinite cosmos. The flames reach his body now, yet he shows no sign of pain. His eyes remain clear, focused on his creation. As the fire consumes him, the geometrical vision above the Campo de Fiori intensifies, pulsating with light and meaning. Several spectators collapse, their minds seemingly unable to process what they are witnessing. Others flee in panic. I alone remain still, understanding that I am seeing what Bruno always described, the mathematical underpinnings of reality itself, laid bare. When it is over, when Bruno's body is nothing but ash and the last of his cosmic diagrams has faded from the smoke, Cardinal Bellarmine approaches me. "You will speak of this to no one," he commands, his face pale despite the winter cold. What occurred here was mass hysteria, nothing more. But we both know different. Confessor's record entry 2. I write these words in secret, knowing they may never be read. Since that day in the Campo de Fiori, I have been reassigned to a remote monastery in the Alps, ostensibly for spiritual reflection. In truth, I am a prisoner as surely as Bruno was, though my cell has a view of mountains rather than stone walls. Each night I dream of his cosmos, infinite, mathematical, alive with possibility. I have tried to reproduce the geometries I witnessed at his execution, filling countless pages with approximations that always fall short. The truth Bruno revealed cannot be captured in mere drawings. Cardinal Bellarmine visits once a year to ensure my continued silence. He does not know about this manuscript, hidden beneath a loose stone in my cell. Perhaps someday someone will find these pages and understand what truly happened when Giordano Bruno faced a flame. The church burned a man, but they could not burn an idea. Bruno's universe, infinite, populated with countless worlds, governed by mathematical harmony, continues to expand in minds that dare to contemplate it, including my own. I begin to understand now what Bruno meant when he told his judges, "You may be more afraid to deliver this judgment than I am to receive it." His cosmology was not heresy, but prophecy. The universe he described awaits discovery by future minds brave enough to look beyond doctrine into the vast geometries of creation. This record, along with my attempted reproductions of Bruno's final theorem, I hereby consign to history. May it find its way to those with eyes to see. Father Bartolomeo Celli. Rome, 1607. Epilogue. The manuscript above was discovered in 1903 during renovations of the monastery of San Lorenzo in the Italian Alps, sealed within a wall cavity. It now resides in a climate-controlled vault deep within the Vatican's secret archives, in a section restricted to all but the highest church authorities. Its catalog number is simply Codex B1600, and it sits among thousands of similar documents, testimonies of wonders and horrors that the church has deemed too dangerous for public knowledge.